I have to say I was surprised that this guy was still there, and that's because of the intangibles that he brought to the football team. What's up, everyone? This is Keith Sanchez from the Draft Network, here to talk to you about the Atlanta Falcons 2022 draft class. So the Atlanta Falcons had a very interesting offseason, right? They took a real swing at Deshaun Watson, but they came up empty. And then in doing so, I think they kind of hurt Matt Ryan's feelings a little bit, and he wanted out of town. So with trading him to the Indianapolis Colts, the Atlanta Falcons were in a true rebuild. And I think entering the draft, not many people knew which direction they were going to go because they had so many holes at so many different positions that it was kind of hard to pinpoint what position they would go after. So in conclusion of the draft, we were able to see what positions they went after. So let's dive deep into it and take a look at the guys that the Atlanta Falcons felt was going to help them in this upcoming 2022 season. First up, we have USC wide receiver Drake London. The Falcons, I believe, in this role, they reached a little bit, and I'm going to tell you why. I believe that there were better wide receivers on the board for where they selected Drake London. But talking about Drake London as a football player, he's a very talented guy. He's 6'4", 6'5". We didn't really get true 40 times on Drake London through the process. And, speed is a question for him on film. But when you talk about a guy that can make those contested catches, he has short area quickness, and he can stretch the field vertically, Drake London is that football player. I don't think he's somebody that should be confused for a Julio Jones type football player. But I can kind of see the thought process behind Terry Fontenot's, I guess, ideologies, right? Last year you drafted Kyle Pitts, and then now you want to pair him with another big body wide receiver. So you almost have these two twin tower type guys for your quarterback to be able to throw the football to. They have really good catch radiuses. So while I think it was a bit of overreach, I understand that Drake London may fit their scheme. And I think it'd be interesting because they also have issues at quarterback, right? They have Marcus Mariota, then they drafted Desmond Ritter, who I'll get into in a couple picks. So I think that he went after wide receivers that, he will give them a good catch radius and be able to help this football team. So projecting Drake London, I do think he is a pro-ready wide receiver, and he should start from day one. He has inside-outside versatility as far as being able to line in the slot, or he can line on the boundary. So I think you'll see Drake London on the field all the time, and he should be a true playmaker for this offense. It'll just be a matter of if the quarterbacks can get him the football. Next up, we have Penn State edge rusher Arnold Ebiketie. Ebiketie has one of the quickest first steps in this entire draft, and his ability to get the edge is quite amazing. So I think that he will instantly be able to impact this Falcons defense and really give the Falcons something that they haven't had since the days of John Abraham, and that's a reliable edge rusher. So while I think this might have been a slight reach, I understand the pick because they are transitioning from a 4-3 to a 3-4 defense, and every 3-4 defense needs those edge rushers that they know can get after the quarterback. So I think building this pillar by pillar, drafting at premium positions, I understand what GM Terry Fontenot was doing. Like I said, while I think in my rankings it might have been a slight overreach, I understand the draft selection of Arnold Ebiketie. Projecting him to this season, I think he has no position but to be a day one starter, and that's because the Falcons roster is really depleted. So Arnold Ebiketie, he will be one of the most talented guys, naturally, his athleticism. So I project him to be a day one starter. And look, there's no way to learn football except for to play football. So he will get better week by week, day by day, practice by practice, and hopefully by the end of the season, Arnold Ebiketie is a true reliable edge rusher for the Falcons. With their second pick in the second round, they went with Montana State linebacker Troy Anderson. Troy is a do-it-all guy. This is a guy that's played quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and ultimately linebacker. And then that's the position where I believe that he's going to try to hone in and really make a professional career out of. Troy, just early on from the linebacker position, has shown really good instincts, and he's also a great athlete. So in this Atlanta Falcons defense, they need those type of athletes. They have Deion Jones, and now they need somebody to kind of pair up with him, a good 1-2 punch. So Troy still has some developmental issues, but the upside is there. So it may have been a bit of a reach overall, but man, you cannot deny the upside. And I think he's just one of those football players that you say, you know what, I'm going to find a position for Troy, put him on the field. And like I said, much with Arnold Ebiketie, there's no way to learn the game of football except for to play the game of football. So putting Troy on the field early and often, I think it will truly benefit him. And let's see if you get good return on your investment. Projecting Troy to the next level, early on, I think that he would have to be a rotational guy because the things I seen on film is that, from time to time he had issues diagnosing the run, but I think he was really good against the pass. So I think he would be a rotational guy early on. He would play on third downs where it's known passing situations. And then in practice, you can really teach this guy and show this guy the ropes of playing the run in the NFL. So early on, like I said, I think he'll be majority a third down guy to kind of stop the pass. And then hopefully by the end of the season, this is a guy that he can really turn it on and be a 3-down linebacker because we know that he has the athleticism to do so. Next up, we have one of my favorite picks of this entire draft, and that's the Atlanta Falcons taking quarterback from Cincinnati, Desmond Ritter, in the third round. I have to say I was surprised that this guy was still there, and that's because of the intangibles that he brought to the football team. At Cincinnati, they were consistently a group of 5 team that had to play Power 5 teams, and they competed with everybody. And while Desmond Ritter wasn't necessarily the reason why he won the games, he was never the reason why they lost those games. So this is a guy that I really trust with the football in his hands, and if you surround him with really good pieces, he can make things happen. We all know that the Atlanta Falcons, they have a quarterback issue / situation in this upcoming season. They have Marcus Mariota donned as the starter. But I believe that Desmond Ritter, just with his intangibles, he's really going to push Marcus. And I wouldn't be surprised in this upcoming season. By the time we get to week 6 or week 7, Desmond Ritter is the starter. Like I said, I think this was a really good pick. So for me, this was a steal. This is a quarterback that I was expecting to possibly go in the first round because the NFL has showed us that they value intangibles so much. So Desmond Ritter, for me, was definitely a draft steal and is one of the most exciting picks in this entire draft for me. With their second pick in the third round, the Atlanta Falcons went back into the edge bucket and decided to draft Western Kentucky edge, Angelo Malone. Malone has exceptional length and is another guy that's a really good athlete. He has some raw things about his game, but he has the frame that you feel as though he will fill out to be 265 pounds. And like I said, there's one thing you can't teach, and that's athleticism, and he has plenty of it. So thinking about the future, you have Arnold Ebiketie on one side, you have Angelo Malone on the other side. That gives the Falcons a good 1-2 punch moving forward. And man, if they're able to get the most out of both of these edge rushers, and they have one of the best 1-2 punches in the NFC South and probably the NFC and maybe the entire NFL if they're able to get both of these guys going. So while the TDN consensus shows that it's a slight reach, me personally, I felt that this was good value for this pick for your return on investment. Man, if you really get Angelo Malone going, like I said, you can possibly have one of the best edge rushers in the draft, and projecting him, he could possibly become one of the best edge rushers in the NFL. So projecting him early on in his career, especially next season, I think that Angelo Malone is a guy that we will see often on third downs. And then hopefully by the back end of the season, we'll be able to see him as a 3-down edge guy, especially in this defensive scheme. In the 5th round, the Atlanta Falcons decide to target BYU running back Tyler Algiere. We all know last year that the Falcons, they did the running back by committee situation and even brought in a former wide receiver in Cordell Patterson and allow him to play running back. He turned out to be very productive, but I don't think this is sustainable. So drafting Tyler Algiere at this spot, I thought was really good value. And quite frankly, the Atlanta Falcons just need running back bodies. They need guys that can bring physicality. We all know in Arthur Smith's offense, he really wants to emphasize the running and really show that this team can run the football. But I think it starts with having a running back with a mentality like a Tyler Algiere. So I thought this was a good spot to take the BYU running back Tyler Algiere, and I expect him to play early. So projecting him to next season, I think because of the lack of bodies on the Atlanta Falcons roster, I think this is a guy that will get carries early and often, and he'll have every opportunity to truly prove himself as a number 1 running back in the NFL. So projecting Tyler Algiere to next year, I think this is a guy that will be a part of a running back by committee type situation, but I'm expecting this guy, especially looking at the depth chart, to kind of separate himself, and by the back end of the season, he should become that number 1 or that 1.5 type running back, because like I discussed earlier, that the Atlanta Falcons running back situation last year was not good, and like I said, they need to really emphasize the run and show a physical mentality, and that's directly what Tyler Algiere does. In the 6th round, the Atlanta Falcons decided to stay in state and draft Georgia interior offensive lineman Justin Shaffer. I really like this pick personally. I know that the projections say that it was just right, but I like this pick, and I was surprised that this player was still on the board. I think that he has left guard and right guard versatility. And for the Atlanta Falcons, they need a physical presence about themselves, right? Like I said, in Arthur Smith's in this offense, he wants to get downhill. He wants everything to move forward. He wants to knock defensive linemen off the ball. And I think you do with these type of guys. Justin Shaffer is a very heavy body guy, but when he really gets his momentum going, he really moves people out the way. He's an SEC football player, so he's seen those defensive linemen with a blend of size, speed, athleticism, height, weight. So there won't be anything in the NFL that he probably hasn't seen. So I think this was a really good pick for the Atlanta Falcons. It addresses a positional need, but also it's about the want to, right? It's about a culture guy. And I think that the way he plays football, he will show to be a really good culture guy and hopefully be the anchor of an interior offensive line that needs help and needs some identity. Projecting Justin early on, like I said, this Atlanta Falcons offense and team as a whole, they have so many holes throughout their depth chart. So I expect this guy to come in and compete and probably turn into a starter from day one. So I think this is a really good pick, and I think that they got good value for Justin Shaffer. With their second pick in the 6th round, the Atlanta Falcons decided to keep it simple, right? With the first pick, they decided to stay in state and go to the University of Georgia. And with their second pick, they decided to stay in state and go to the University of Georgia and draft tight end John Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick is another mentality and culture guy. He's a guy that's an inline tight end that really likes to move people off the line of scrimmage, but he also showed to be a really smart football player also. So I think whoever's at quarterback, whether it's Marcus Mariota or Desmond Ritter, he's a guy that can uncover in those short to intermediate routes and make himself available for the quarterback. So I thought this was a really good pick. And like I said, in the back end, you talk about the 6th, 7th round, you want to draft those guys that you know have floors and they have a role that you know that they can immediately play. So I'm expecting this guy to also play on special teams also. So taking John Fitzpatrick in the 6th round, I thought that it was just right. And like I said, for what the Atlanta Falcons want to do next year from a philosophy standpoint, from a mentality and culture standpoint, I think this pick fits. So projecting John Fitzpatrick to next year, we know that they have Kyle Pitts, right? So we obviously know that they're pretty much set as a generational talent for a tight end that can be that flex guy. So I don't think that will be John Fitzpatrick's role. But I think when they go to 2 tight end and 3 tight end sets, John Fitzpatrick will come on the field so they can run the football or do play action, and he'll be that tight end that kind of just always finds a way to kind of leak out of the backfield or play action bootleg, and they kind of take that 2-yard dunk down the field and they can maybe turn it to a 10-yard gain. So early on, I think John Fitzpatrick will find himself on the football field, but he will be more of the blocking inline guy, and then he'll continue to develop until hopefully maybe he's the starter when they go to 2 tight end and 3 tight end sets. So overall, the Atlanta Falcons entered the 2022 draft with so many holes and so many needs in this roster, and I think they started the process of rebuilding, right? I don't think with one draft you can immediately turn a franchise around and you see all of the results and return on investment in 1 year, but I think they at least started the foundation and the building blocks. So for me, the Atlanta Falcons had a successful draft, and I look forward to seeing what they do this upcoming year, and then also seeing how they continue to build team philosophy moving forward. So remember to leave a comment and let me know what you think about the Atlanta Falcons draft class, and don't forget to like and subscribe at the Draft Network.